The D-backs take on the Phillies, 7:05 p.m. Eastern first pitch. Philadelphia's minus 240, totals 8.5. And if you like Arizona and an upset on the road here, they're plus 205 for some money line cash. Now the D-backs are also catching even money, catching the 1.5 on the run line. Taylor Widener starting for Arizona. Aaron Nola for the Phillies. And despite another brutal day of premium sports picks on BrockPage.com yesterday, we still managed to improve to 8-1 in our last 9 Major League Baseball tier package picks on that website. And the good news is we have another Major League Baseball tier package pick going off here this evening. We've been red hot in that package. We currently have over 850 members who are signed up and active on that website. And if you want to see which one of these free YouTube picks that I'm actually betting on personally, there's only one way to do that, and that's on my website. And once again, that page is BrockPage.com. Now, Aaron Nola is just 7-7 on the year for Philadelphia. And in addition to that, he also has a lackluster 4.33 ERA. The Titans are on a 3-game losing streak. And they also took the loss in 8 out of their last 10. Now, Philly struggled somewhat at the plate this year. They're in the bottom 10 in home scoring, bottom 10 in hits on average per game. They're taking on a Diamondbacks club who won their last 2 straight themselves. And they also got the W in 6 out of their last 10. As a matter of fact, this D-backs lineup scored 4 runs or more in 7 out of their last 10 ball games. Arizona's in the top 10 in the league in walks on average per game at the plate. Josh Rojas has an OPS of 810 this season. He's also hitting 278 at the plate as well. Meanwhile, Taylor Widener has gone 2-1 thus far through 60 innings of work. The righty's also struck out 60 batters already during that span. And when it comes to the total in this one, 4 out of Arizona's last 7 road games got over the number. The D-backs were also 33-29 to the over against National League opponents on the road. Meanwhile, the Phillies saw 3 out of their last 4 contests at Citizens Bank Park get over the number themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Arizona Diamondbacks plus 1.5 and the over 8.5 runs. Next matchup, Cardinals versus the Pirates, 7:05 Eastern Standard Time. The St. Louis Cardinals are minus 150, totals 9. Jay Happ for the Cards, Dylan Peters for Pittsburgh. Now, Peters has just 9 2/3 innings of work under his belt for Pittsburgh. The last place Pirates have the second fewest wins in the National League, and they currently find themselves 34 games below 500. Now, this Pirates lineup also scores fewer runs than any other team in the majors. They're taking on a Cardinals club who actually ranks in the top 10 in the majors in fewest hits allowed per 9. Jay Happ's 7-6 thus far in the year with 96 strikeouts. And when it comes to the number in this one, 7 out of St. Louis's last 10 ball games stayed under the total. Meanwhile, the Pirates went 80% to the under in their last 10 themselves. I'm going to lean toward the St. Louis Cardinals minus 150 in the under 9 runs. Next ball game, Rays, Orioles, 7:05 Eastern Standard Time. The Tampa Bay Rays are minus 235, totals 10. Shane McClanahan for Tampa, Matt Harvey for Baltimore. Now Harvey's just 6-13 on the season, 6.27 ERA and a 1.54 WHIP. The last place Orioles have the worst record in Major League Baseball, and they currently find themselves with a .317 win percentage. This Baltimore pitching staff allows more hits per contest than any other team in the majors. They're taking on a first-place Rays club who's on a 4-game winning streak, and they also got the W in 8 out of their last 9. Now, this Tampa lineup is leading the majors in road scoring. Brandon Lau's hit 30 home runs already. He's actually 7th in the league in that category. Meanwhile, Austin Meadows is 6th in the big leagues with 88 RBI himself. And if for some reason, if the bats don't come alive here today for Tampa Bay, the Rays also have Shane McClanahan on the bump here this evening. He's 8-4 with a .363 ERA, along with 113 strikeouts. Now, when it comes to the scoring in this one, Tampa Bay went 80% to the over in their last 10 outings. Meanwhile, Baltimore saw 7 out of their last 10 ball games get over the number themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Tampa Bay Rays minus 1.5 and the over 10 runs. Next matchup, Reds versus the Marlins, 7:10 East. The Cincinnati Reds are minus 150, totals 8. Wade Miley for Cincinnati, Zach Thompson for Miami. Now Thompson's got a 2.97 ERA and a 1.09 whip. The Miami Marlins are currently on a 2-game winning streak, and they also have a winning record at Lone Depot Park. This Marlins pitching staff is in the top 10 in fewest runs allowed per contest at home. They're also allowing just 3.8 runs a game as the home team as well. They're squaring off against a Cincinnati club who lost 2 out of their last 3. And they actually walk more batters per 9 than any other pitching staff in the majors. And in addition to all of that, despite some really good stuff out of Wade Miley here this year, his walks have increased his whip to a 1.23. So once again, Miley with a 1.23 whip. Now, total-wise, 7 out of Cincy's last 10 ball games stayed under the line. Meanwhile, the Marlins went 60% to the under in their last 10 themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Miami Marlins plus 1.5 and the under 8 runs. Next ball game, Nats versus the Mets, 7:10 Flushing, Queens. The New York Mets are minus $2, totals 9. Rich Hill for New York, Paolo Espino for Washington. And despite a handful of shaky starts out of Espino this season, he's only got 4 losses thus far in the year, and he also has a fairly decent 1.20 whip. And despite their recent struggles, the Nationals have still gotten the W in 4 out of their last 8 ball games. Now, their lineup's still in the top 5 in fewest strikeouts at the plate per game. They're also in the top 3 in the majors in road hits on average per game as well. Now, Josh Bell and Juan Soto each have 21 home runs apiece for Washington. They're taking on a struggling Mets organization who's on a 3-game losing streak, and they also lost 11 out of their last 13 ball games after pretty much being in first place for the entire season. Talk about, an epic collapse here. Now, New York scores fewer runs at home than any other team in the majors. That was bound to catch up with them. The Mets are currently averaging just 3.4 runs a game at Citi Field. Rich Hill's also looking for his first win with New York. He's thrown just under 27 innings with the Mets and has a 5.06 ERA already, along with a 1.35 whip. Now, total-wise, 8 out of New York's last 10 ball games stayed under the line. They're also 16-9 to the under in their divisional games at Citi Field. I'm going to lean toward the Washington Nationals plus 1.5 and the under 9 runs. Next ball game. Oh, excuse me. Don't do that much during a video. But anyway, next game, Blue Jays, Tigers, 7:10 p.m. Eastern start time. The Toronto Blue Jays are minus 170, numbers 9.5. Steven Matz for Toronto, Matt Manning for Detroit. Now, Manning's just 3-5 with a 5.91 ERA and a 1.56 whip. The Tigers have lost 6 out of their last 9 ball games, and their pitching staff is in the bottom 5 in striking batters out. The Tigers are also in the bottom 10 in hits allowed per contest. They're taking on a Toronto club who's amongst the league leaders in hits on average per game. Vlad Guerrero Jr.'s hit 36 homers and knocked in 90. The Slugger's also third in the big leagues with a 996 OPS. Marcus Semion's also upped his home run count to 32 after yesterday. He's 5th in the majors in that particular category. This tough Blue Jays lineup is currently leading the majors in fewest road strikeouts at the plate. They also have Steven Matz on the hill here tonight, who's got double-digit wins on the season along with a 3.94 ERA. Now, the lefties also struck out 109 batters. When it comes to the total in this one, 6 out of Toronto's last 10 ball games stayed under the line. Meanwhile, Detroit went 60% to the under in their last 10 themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Toronto Blue Jays minus 170 and the under 9.5. Next matchup, Red Sox, Indians, 7:10 p.m. Eastern first pitch. The Boston Red Sox are minus 175, numbers 9. Eduardo Rodriguez for Boston, Logan Allen for Cleveland. Allen's just 1-5 with the Indians this year, 9.13 ERA and a 1.81 WHIP. And despite a flurry of wins for Cleveland here recently, this Indians lineup has certainly struggled this year. They're in the bottom 10 in the league in hits on average per game. They're also in the bottom 5 in offensive walks at the plate. They're taking on a Boston club who won 3 out of their last 4 themselves. And they're also amongst the league leaders in hits on average per game. Now, Rafael Devers, he's 7th in the majors with 30 home runs. Now, he's also 2nd in the big leagues with 94 runs batted in. Meanwhile, Xander Bogaerts is 12th in the league with a .302 batting average, along with an .881 OPS. Meanwhile, pitching-wise, Boston is averaging nearly double-digit strikeouts a game when they travel. Eduardo Rodriguez is 9-7 on the season with 148 strikeouts. When it comes to the total on this one, 2 out of Boston's last 3 road games stayed under the line. They're also 32-23 to the under against the American League on the road. I'm going to go ahead and lean toward the Boston Red Sox minus 175 and the under 9 runs. Next matchup, Giants versus the Braves, 7:20 Eastern Standard Time. The Atlanta Braves are minus $1.15, totals 8. Max Fried for Atlanta, Kevin Gausman for San Francisco. Now Gausman's 12-5 with a .247 ERA and a 1.01 WHIP. The righty struck out 174 batters. Now the first place Giants are 39 games above 500, and they currently have the most wins in Major League Baseball. The Giants lead the majors in fewest walks allowed per 9. They're also holding their opponents to just 3.3 runs a game when they travel. They're taking on a Braves club who's on a 2-game losing streak, and they also play just .500 baseball on their home field. This Atlanta lineup is averaging nearly double-digit home strikeouts a game at the plate. Atlanta's currently 39-23 to the over at Truist Park. I'm going to lean toward the San Francisco Giants plus $1 and the over 8 runs. Next ball game, Astros Rangers 8:05 East. The Houston Astros are minus 210, totals 9.5. Jake Odorizzi for Houston, Glenn Otto for Texas. Now Otto's making his debut this evening with the Rangers, and this last place Rangers club, they have the second fewest wins in the American League. They also currently find themselves 39 games below 500. Now in addition to losing 7 out of their last 9, the Rangers are averaging just 3.8 runs a game overall for the year. They're taking on a first-place Astros club who scores more runs than any other team in baseball. Yuli Gurriel's 4th in the bigs with a .316 batting average. Meanwhile, Yordan Alvarez, he smashed 26 home runs and knocked in 86. Alvarez currently ranks 7th in the majors in runs batted in. And needless to say, this Astros lineup leads the league in fewest strikeouts at the plate per game. They also have Jake Odorizzi on the bump, who's got 6 wins on the year, along with 70 strikeouts. Now, total-wise, 3 out of Houston's last 4 road games did stay under the number. Meanwhile, the Rangers are currently 35-27 to the under in their ball games at Globe Life Field. I'm going to lean toward the Houston Astros minus 1.5 and the over 9.5 runs. Next contest, Brewers versus the Twins, 8:10 p.m. Eastern Start Time. The Milwaukee Brewers are minus 140, totals 9.5. Eric Lauer for Milwaukee, Andrew Albers for Minnesota. Now Albers has just 4 innings of work under his belt for the last place Twins. Minnesota's lost 5 out of their last 6 ball games, and they're amongst the worst in the league in runs allowed per contest. This Minnesota pitching staff is also in the bottom 5 in hits allowed per game as well. Now they're taking on a first-place Brewers franchise who won 7 out of their last 10 ball games themselves, and they also play their best baseball on the road, believe it or not. Now the Brew Crew is currently winning 67% of their ball games when they bat first. Come playoff time, that is going to be a very, very important quality for them to have. It's tough to win on the road in the playoffs. You have to do it That's where teams go deep when they win on the road, especially in the postseason. And speaking of, batting, Minnesota's in the top 5 in the league in road scoring. Avisail Garcia's hit 24 homers and batted in 76. Meanwhile, pitching-wise, Milwaukee leads the majors in fewest runs allowed per game on the road. Eric Lauer's fanned 76 batters in just over 77 innings of work. 3.59 ERA thus far in the season for the lefty. When it comes to the total in this one, Milwaukee's gone 7-5 to the over in their 12 interleague contests. They're also 34-29 to the over in their road games this year. Meanwhile, the Twins are officially 81-46 to the over for the entire season themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Milwaukee Brewers minus 140 in the over 9.5. Next game, Cubs, White Sox, 8:10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The Chicago White Sox are minus 210, totals 9. Dallas Keuchel for the Sox, Keegan Thompson for the Cubs. Now, Thompson's got just 3 losses on the year, along with a 2.42 ERA. Now, the Cubs have also won 2 out of their last 3 ball games. They successfully cashed in on the run line in 4 out of their last 5 interleague road games. Now, this Cubbies pitching staff is in the top 10 in striking batters out away from home. They're taking on a White Sox team who dropped 4 out of their last 6. And they also rank in the bottom half of the league in strikeouts at the plate. Now, the Sox have also failed to cash in on the run line in 6 out of their last 10 outings. And total-wise, the Sox went 7-3 to the under in their last 10 ball games. They're also 3-0 to the under in their last 3 at Guaranteed Rate Field. Meanwhile, the Cubbies saw 3 out of their last 4 in the road stay under the total themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Chicago Cubs plus 1.5 and the under 9 runs. Next contest, Pods, Angels, 9:38 East. The San Diego Padres are minus $2, totals 8.5. Joe Musgrove for San Diego. No confirmed starter yet for Los Angeles. But regardless of who throws out the first pitch for LA, they're taking on a Padres club who lost their last 4 straight. And they also posted a record of just 2-12 straight up in their last 14. Now, the Padres are currently winning only 45% of their ball games on the road. They're also in the bottom half of the league in hits on average per game. And as good as Joe Musgrove's been this season, he comes into today's contest with a very average, very lackluster 8-8 record. Now, they're taking on an Angels squad who still has a winning home record despite their recent struggles. This Los Angeles lineup is in the top 10 in home scoring, top 10 in hits. Shohei Ohtani leads the majors with 41 home runs. He's also second in the bigs with a 1.002 OPS. Now, Sho's also 4th in the league with 89 RBI as well. And number-wise, LA went 60% to the over in their last 10 ball games, 6-2 to the over in their last 8 interleague home games. I'm going to lean toward the LA Angels plus 1.5 and the over 8.5 runs. Next contest, Yankees, A's, 9:40 Eastern start time. The New York Yankees are minus 150, total 7 and a hook. Garrett Cole for New York, Sean Manaea for Oakland. Manaea struck out 151 batters this year, 8 wins thus far in the season, along with a 3.77 ERA. Despite a really bad stretch of games here recently for Oakland, they're still successfully cashing in on the run line in 6 out of their last 10 ball games. As a matter of fact, the A's are currently 4-2 against the number in their last 6 at the Coliseum. The Athletics are in the top 3 in fewest walks allowed per 9. They're also holding their opponents to only 3.9 runs a game. They're taking on a Yankees squad who's in the bottom 10 in the league in hits on average per game, despite their incredible winning streak. And don't get me wrong, they're playing great baseball right now, but still haven't been hitting all that great. And the Yankees are also averaging nearly double-digit strikeouts a game at the plate. Now, total-wise, New York went 60% to the under in their last 10 outings, 2-1 to the under in their last 3 away from home. Meanwhile, the A's went 80% to the under in their last 10 ball games themselves, 4-2 to the under in their last 6 at home. I'm going to lean toward the Oakland A's plus 1.5 and the under 7.5 runs. Next contest, Royals Mariners, 10:10 p.m. East. The Seattle Mariners are minus 175, totals 8. Logan Gilbert for Seattle, Chris Bubich for Kansas City. Now Bubich is just 4-6 on the year, 4.94 ERA and a 1.46 WHIP. The Royals are winning just 39% of their road games, and they score only 3.7 runs a game when they bat first. This Royals lineup is also dead last in the majors in walks at the plate. They're taking on a Mariners club who won 3 out of their last 4. They also find themselves 37-26 straight up at T-Mobile Park. And if you want to catch a little more value, laying the 1.5 on the run line, Seattle's cashed in on the number in nearly 60% of their ball games for the entire season. Logan Gilbert comes into today's contest with a 1.17 WHIP and 92 strikeouts. Meanwhile, scoring-wise, Seattle went 60% to the over in their last 10 ball games, 2-0 to the over in their last couple at home. Meanwhile, the Royals went 9-1 to the over in their last 10 ball games with Seattle. I'm going to lean toward the Seattle Mariners minus 175 and the over 8 runs. But that, guys, now it's time for our next and final matchup. It is going to be Rockies versus the Dodgers, 10:10 p.m. Eastern first pitch. The LA Dodgers are minus 235, totals 9. No confirmed starter yet for the Dodgers. Kyle Freeland's available tonight for the Rockies. Now, Freeland's just 4-6 thus far in the season, 4.25 ERA and a 1.38 WHIP. The Rockies have lost 3 out of their last 4 ball games, and they have the fewest road wins in the majors. Colorado's currently just 15-47 straight up when they travel, and that's good for only 24% in that category. They're taking on a Dodgers club who won their last 3 straight themselves, 12-1 straight up in their last 13. This LA lineup is in the top 3 in scoring, and they're led by Max Muncy, who's 9th in the majors with a 929 OPS. Now, the first baseman has hit 28 homers and knocked in 76. Meanwhile, Mookie Betts, he seems to always be on base as well. He's got an OPS of 893 himself. When it comes to the total on this one, 9 out of Los Angeles' last 10 ball games stayed under the line. 6-1 to the under in their last 7 at home. Meanwhile, the Rockies went 60% to the under in their last 10 themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Los Angeles Dodgers minus 1.5. And the under 9 runs. But that, guys, now it's time for our quick pick recap. Powered to you by my website at brockpage.com, where we are 8-1 in our last 9 Major League Baseball tier package picks on that webpage. I like Arizona plus 1.5, over 8 and a hook. St. Louis minus 150, under 9 runs. Tampa Bay minus 1.5, over 10 runs. Miami plus 1.5, under 8. Washington plus 1.5, under 9 runs. Toronto minus 170, under 9.5. Boston minus 175, under 9 runs. San Francisco plus $1, over 8. Houston minus 1.5, over 9 and a hook. Milwaukee minus 140, over 9.5 runs. Chicago Cubs plus 1.5, under 9. LA Angels plus 1.5, over 8 and a hook. Oakland plus 1.5, under 7.5 runs. Seattle minus 175, over 8. Before I give you my next and final free pick for the video, one final reminder that we are 8-1 in our last 9 Major League Baseball tier package picks on my brockpage.com website. I'm going to lean toward the LA Dodgers minus 1.5 and the under 9 runs. With that, guys, now it's time for our shout out of the day. And that goes to Prajit Shrestha, who said yesterday, "Good to see you back after a long time, bro. Cheers." And I certainly appreciate that comment, Prajit. Great to be back. And of course, like I explained the other day, just kind of, I was reluctant to do so because, you know, I love producing content every day, but I had to kind of pull back the reins a little bit and just take a handful of days off because now the football season has started. We're going to be running hard every single day, probably through June of 2022. So I had to force myself kind of just to relax and enjoy a few days away from the camera. But certainly, I missed you guys as well, and I appreciate the comment there. But anyway, guys, that is going to do it for me. Once again, don't forget to check me out on brockpage.com. Now, if you guys end up getting a package here today on that website, just keep in mind you're going to get billed the day you sign up and then the first of every month following that. So if you do end up getting a membership here today, you're going to get access to that content through the end of August, and then you're going to get billed again on September 1st. I always tell folks the earlier in the month you sign up, the better. But most importantly, guys, got to thank you for joining me right here on YouTube. I really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. And with that said, guys, happy Friday to you. Best of luck to you. And I look forward to seeing you later on today on my website at brockpage.com.